The government is barreling towards a shutdown. Lawmakers have until midnight tonight to reach a deal to keep the government funded.
But after a failed meeting at the White House, a shutdown seems all but certain, and the impacts could be far-reaching.
Tuesday night, the big story on Action News is a possible government shutdown just hours away.
The last shutdown happened during President Trump's first term, starting in late 2018, lasted 35 days, which is the longest on record. Although Republicans control Capitol Hill and the White House, they need at least 7 Democrats in the Senate to join them to pass the spending package. But Democrats say they won't fund the government unless Republicans reverse cuts to Medicaid and keep health care premiums from rising for some 20 million Americans.
Yesterday, President Trump called top Republican and Democratic congressional leaders for a meeting, but there was little sign of progress. The White House is threatening possible mass firings if a shutdown is not averted.
We don't want it to shut down because we have the greatest period of time ever. I told you, we have $17 trillion being invested, so the last person that wants it shut down is us. Now, with that being said, we can do things during the shutdown that are irreversible, that are bad for them and irreversible by them, like cutting vast numbers of people out, cutting things that they like, cutting programs that they like.
If there is a shutdown, as many as 4 million federal employees, including some service members, could go without a paycheck. If a shutdown does happen, it could have major impacts even if you are not a federal worker.
Action News reporter Maggie Kent has that part of the story tonight.
If government funding runs out, some federal workers will be sent home. Others will have to work without pay, and some fear they may be terminated. With a large divide between political parties and a 12:01 a.m. deadline drawing closer, a government shutdown is looming. Rowan University political science professor Ben Dworkin.
And we'll have to see where the public comes down in assigning blame. And at some point, someone is going to say, let's cut a deal.
A shutdown would mean national parks will close to the public. For the Steeles visiting from Louisiana, plans to revel in our nation's history are now up in the air.
Really Philadelphia today, and unfortunately D.C. tomorrow and the next 4 days after that. So hopefully it doesn't shut down.
Democrats are pushing to reverse cuts to Medicaid and extend subsidies for the Affordable Care Act. Republicans argue that this should not be tied to the spending bill. If there is no resolution, 4 million federal workers would go without pay, including military members. TSA agents would have to show up for work without pay. Joe Shooker represents their union.
It's a high-stress environment as it is, right? We're looking for bombs, weapons, right? So you got to be on. And to have this stress added to you about how am I going to feed my family, how am I going to pay my rent, it's too much added stress.
There's a concern that some federal workers could lose their jobs outright. The White House's own budget office has threatened mass firings in programs that are, quote, not consistent with the president's priorities.
There could be far-reaching implications beyond the simple budget resolution. If these people get cut, they don't necessarily come back.
If the government shuts down, things will be a lot quieter here along Independence Mall as national parks will close, and you can expect longer waits for essential government services. In Old City, Maggie Kent, Channel 6, Action News.